Welcome back, creators. So a lot has happened since I discussed Shadow Generations previously. We've got new gameplay videos, specifically of Kingdom Valley. We've got new screenshots coming out, revealing new, never-before-seen parts of certain levels, and also just the realization that there might be more levels here than we originally thought. So that's very exciting. But one of the things that really struck me was that poster that seems to reveal the boss of Shadow Generations. I'm not entirely sure if that's like the final boss, but it kind of seems like it is, since the Time Eater is the final boss of Generations. So this is some of the best artwork I've ever seen for a Sonic game, just period. I wouldn't even say just in recent time, I think just of all time. This is a fantastic artwork. Now I wanted to discuss something else as well that was revealed, or rather rumored. I don't know if it's true. I believe it, but I don't know if it's true. That Sonic Generations is getting its cutscenes redone, possibly rewritten as well. I don't really know what that means for the story and how that's going to affect Shadow Generations, or the entire package as a whole. If they are doing that, I'm all for it, because I think the story of Generations and its cutscenes were just some of the weakest, and it's not really the fault of the voice actors or the fault of the writers at the time. Everyone was just doing the best they could with what they were given at that time, and that was a very different era for Sonic, so I try not to be too hard on it, but it was definitely lacking in the story department, and that was the one part of the game that just never really clicked with me. So if that gets updated, then it would for sure be higher on my list of favorite Sonic games. So another interesting thing is that it kind of gives off this vibe that the stories are more connected than we think. And as you know from playing the original Generations, there's nothing really that feels connected to whatever Shadow Generations is doing, which we haven't really seen, now that I'm thinking about it, any cutscenes, which is probably a good sign. That means there's a lot of spoilery things in there, I would assume, or they just really are holding back on that because there's not that many. I don't know, but we haven't even seen one. You know, we've only seen levels and little in-between cutscenes before a boss fight starts. You know, we haven't really seen a full-fledged cutscene with dialogue and story, so I don't really know what to expect, but from what we've heard, it's going to be a more darker, serious story, which fits Shadow, obviously. Goes without saying, that's not surprising, but I was not expecting that Sonic Generations might get a similar treatment just to make the whole thing feel a little bit more complete and connected. And again, if they were going to rewrite any game, I think this is the one to do it, and I think Ian Flynn would handle that really well. But we'll have to wait and see if it's true. I really do hope it is, though, because the implications could be that Generations could be slightly different, or it could be totally different from the original, and that could either be for better or for worse, and I think anything would be better than the original Generation story, so I'm all for whatever changes they have in store. And even if those are just to make it feel more connected to Shadow Generations, you know, maybe adding an extra cutscene where Sonic and Shadow, their stories intertwine and they both have the same cutscene in each game. I don't know what kind of to what level this is going to go to, or if it's really just to improve Generations as a standalone title and it doesn't really have much to do with connecting it to Shadow Generations. I don't know what the intention would quite be, you know, rewriting and redoing cutscenes there, but if at the end of the day it's just quality assurance, I'm all there for it, because yeah, that story could use some fine-tuning, and I think the voice actors should be given a second chance to come back in and redo those cutscenes with better dialogue. So again, all for that. I also wanted to go over some of my theories that I had before, which I think have changed, because I think as we get closer to this release date, I mean, we are less than 2 months away and there is no sign at all of Mephiles. I really don't think Mephiles is going to be in this game, and I know that may age well or it may not. Come back to this video and let me know whenever the game comes out, but I'm going to go ahead and say that he's not in this at all, and that's okay, because if they ever want to use that villain again, which I'd be fine if they didn't, but if they ever did, there's always another story, there's always a better opportunity. I think maybe if they made another standalone Shadow game, I know this technically counts as that, but I mean one that's not Generations, you know, one that's just Shadow the Hedgehog 2, or just, you know, Shadow's whatever subtitle they want to throw in. I think if they just made Mephiles come back as his own villain by himself, having all the spotlight, that would just be so much better than kind of just throwing him in for a Kingdom Valley boss fight. But hey, what other boss fight would there be in Kingdom Valley other than Mephiles? meaningless, right? It's kind of like, well, he's probably going to make an appearance here. But that still doesn't remove the possibility of him returning again in the future, since he is also a manipulator of time, similar to the Time Eater, and similar, I guess, to Black Doom, who has this ability, which, again, that poster is making me think that the two of them are in cahoots. You know, we got Black Doom, we got Time Eater. I think maybe they could be working together. But the Time Eater doesn't really talk. It's not really like a being that has anything to say. I don't really know how you would even team up with an entity like that, but I mean, Black Doom is Black Doom. He has his ways. He partnered up with Gerald, so maybe it's not that impossible. He could communicate with the Time Eater where others fail to, you know, and Eggman did, you know, try to control the Time Eater, so there's that too. I think he succeeded at controlling it, so, you know, again, I haven't played Generations in a long time. That story, it's just not there, I'm sorry. But yeah, I mean, needless to say, I'm very, very hyped for this. And as we see more and as I'm thinking about it more, I'm like, you know, I'm at peace with the fact that, you know, Mephiles is probably not going to be here. And I'm just happy that we're getting Black Doom in the spotlight. You know, let's not get carried away. I think as Sonic fans, we get carried away. We're like, oh, you give us one thing, we want the whole thing. We want all the characters to show up, you know. But Generations has always been this is the time to throw in all the references moment. That's why we're feeling this way. Like, well, if you're gonna bring this back, bring this back, bring this back, you know, while we're at it. But honestly, I would like something new for Shadow. If they're gonna do something with Shadow in the future, I'd like there to be something new. But if they bring back Mephiles, I'm also cool with that. We'll just have to see where we go from here. But it's looking really good for this character. I mean, for the franchise as a whole, but it's looking really good for Shadow. I think no doubt he's gonna be getting more standalone games in the future and just more attention in the mainline games. You know, I definitely think we're going to be seeing Shadow in whatever Frontier sequel, whatever they're working on right now, 100%. And whatever they learn from making this project will definitely be transitioned over quite smoothly to whatever the next project they're working on is. I don't know, things are really looking up. It's just so much hype in the air, you can't really contain it. And we haven't really had a moment like this in a long, long time in the franchise to just have this much hype in the air. You can feel it. It's so electric, you know, and just especially with the movie coming out and the movie looking so fantastic, as I've said in my previous video on that, it's just got me all kinds of hyped because this is a character that I've always really believed in that had more potential than he was given. It's time to do away with those outdated SA2 cutscenes that are just so like, you know, roughly animated. I mean, they did the best with what they had and they're good. I'm not saying they're bad. I'm just saying that, like, I can't wait to see all this stuff in the modern day, you know, celebrated and appreciated by a new generation who get to experience this character and learn about him. And also for us older fans to learn something new, you know, in Gerald's diary that we're going to be able to read. I think that's going to reveal some really big lore and plot of Shadow's past that has been missing, especially stuff to do with the arc and all that. So yeah, I mean, no matter what way you cut it, I mean, Gerald Robotnik is also getting the spotlight and is being played by Jim Carrey. I mean, what timeline are we even in right now? You have to understand. So my generation grew up watching Jim Carrey movies. Like, those were like the feel-good, funny movies that you would just put on. And if you were a Sonic fan from my generation, you grew up with the OVA, which was an animated film based more on like the classic Sonic era. They were very separated. And now, like, it's just in the zeitgeist. It's just everywhere. And like, these characters are just everywhere. And I always had imagined, you know, in my early teens and now into adulthood, like, imagine what they could do with that story of like Shadow and the Ark and Maria, and like they could just make a movie out of just that. And we're kind of getting that, you know, and this isn't even the last time we're going to be seeing the character in the movies, I'm sure. So we're going to get even more of that. And I'm sure, like, whatever they don't cover in this movie, they'll cover in the next movie or whatever. Or if Shadow gets his own movie, I don't know. The game looks great. The movie looks great. This poster is bringing so much hype. And when a poster is bringing hype, you just know that someone at Sonic Team is cooking. And that would probably be Iizuka who's cooking, honestly. The fact that Sega is finally properly funding their projects, I think that's also helping them too. But yeah, I think that about sums it up. I really appreciate you guys sticking around and supporting the channel and being patient for Sonic Cybernetics Episode 6, which I have been working very, very hard to get done before the release of Shadow Generation. So hopefully sometime in October, we're going to get that release of this next episode. It's a massive episode, and I am so so excited for you guys to see it. Really, my excitement to get this episode out and to show it to you all is like, it's literally driving me to complete it faster. And I'm literally in crunch mode right now, just getting these things finalized and ready. So just a couple more scenes left to animate and we're done, and some more editing, of course. So look forward to that, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out, creators.